Follow up. I was looking through pictures of my phone last night, looking about 2 years ago when I had dropped more weight and been more consistent than I ever had in my life. I had gone 12 weeks where I dropped 30 pounds. Looking back, I'm like, wow, I looked good. At the time, I didn't think I looked good and I could have kept going. But for whatever reason, I didn't keep going, and now I'm looking at it where I'm back at my starting point and I'm having to start over again because summer's coming. I've got to be out in the pool. I got to have that mankini going. So
That's right.
I got to look a little good in that. So why is it that we don't commit for changing for the long haul rather than the short term? Why can't we change for long?
Well, I mean, I think even you would admit that when we do start changing, that we think that it is for good. But the reason we don't change for long, it's an extremely complex question that has many factors. It could be lack of knowledge. It could be that our thoughts are flawed or that we've been misinformed. It could be the amount of time it takes or the effort required. We may be too busy to start with things, or we don't understand the commitment required to reach that specific goal. I mean, our goals may be way too high, and there's something called the aspiration gap, and it's where I'm right here, but I want to be here, and we're trying to make too big of a jump. It's about making smaller jumps in that process. So, uh, but the one thing all these factors have in common is it's the manifestations of our thoughts. In other words, it's the way that we are thinking about the situation. The truth is, many times, with when change occurs, it's because of pain. I mean, you might think about, somebody has a heart attack, or you get a divorce, or you got that high school reunion coming up. These are painful thoughts that accompany these. Oh my gosh, I've got to get my health better, or I don't want my friends to see me like that. So that initially may motivate us to do something. So that's where we get started on that process. The main reason we don't change for long is because we have acquired a set of beliefs that keep us who we are, not who we want to be. So, if I don't believe that I can stick with something, then I'm probably not going to stick with it. If it just seems too hard, too overwhelming, we may say something like, yeah, I want to try this diet, but I know that diets in the past I haven't stuck with. There's not a full commitment, because I think when you're fully committed to something, then it's a lot easier to stick to. I think that we don't really look at the complexity of what all goes into this. I mean, it's going to require maybe me changing my environment, maybe not hanging out with the people I hang with, because you tell me with whom you consort, and I'll tell you who you are. It was David Hume. But a lot of times that our friends or family, that has a huge impact on what we do. Subconsciously, what happens is when you get around friends and family, you revert right back to what some of the things you do. I
Mm.
remember my language, my mouth used to be a lot more foul than it is now. But I tell you, I can get around some of these old friends that I used to hang with, and it's funny that vocabulary comes back. And it's the same thing with our drives. If you're around a lot of people that like to eat out, and you're trying to make nutritional changes, if drinking is a problem, and a lot of your friends drink, these are things that are going to make it more complicated. So the reason we don't change for long is because the set of beliefs that we've acquired. So what we've got to do is we've got to acquire a new set of beliefs. And it's really a lot more complex than just starting a diet, because what you're doing is we're taking a look at a piece of paper or something on the internet that has a list of things to do. So we're trying to change our movement without changing our beliefs or our thoughts. So you're doing something on paper. But
Right.
the whole time you're doing that, you're still running on this old thought process that it's subconscious, but that subconscious is what really drives our behavior. And so it's about taking a look at our thoughts. Our thoughts are the main thing. And when we change our thoughts, then it's easy to make change. But it's almost like you've got to embody that which you do rather than just doing it. It would be like me not if I was a drinker, addressing my drinking problem. I drink because I get angry. I drink because I get depressed. I drink because she left me, or I drink because I lost my job. So whenever I'm feeling these these emotions, rather than work through them, what I'm trying to do is avoid them or cover them up, minimize them by doing something that's destructive. We do that not only with alcohol, but we do it with food. We do it with several other things too. So like say that if you're trying to change and all of a sudden the coronavirus hit and we're out of work, and I start thinking, well, I can't make it to the gym. I can't go into work. I mean, there's chips in the pantry, or I can go do a drive-through takeout. We need to boost the economy. I mean, we try to justify what it is that we're doing, rather than saying, okay, wow, I'm out of work. What can I do? That in addition to, without being at the office, can I do this job from home? One of the big things I think we need to do is keep our schedule the same. Like if I normally, for example, for me, I get up at 4 in the morning every morning when I'm working. Okay, right now I'm working a little bit from home. I still get up at 4 o'clock. I take a shower. I put my clothes on. This is the way that I start my day. I try to keep it as normal as possible. I set up a workspace. I have times that I eat my food. I stick with that regardless of what it is I have going on. When you do things like that, and it's repetitive, it's a pattern that we develop, that as long as we stick to it, it'll be okay. Also, I think you got to look at, it's the way we look at things. Some people looked at being off of work, and I know, there are people that are in, dire need of income, that they don't have the flexibility to be off of work for 2 or 3 months. Um, you can look at this as, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to make it, how I'm going to pay the bills. When I think a better way to look at it is, all right, what can I do right now? That's an external factor. I mean, I can't change the externals, but what I can change are the internals, the way I think about it. So it's all about how we look at it. I mean, this is a great opportunity for what? Make a list, write it all out. I always talk about, we have these thoughts in our mind, but a thought is fleeting, but when you write it on paper, it's reflective. It's something we can look back at, and it really helps to organize our thoughts. And so, like you were saying, when something comes up and you kind of get off of that, if we've written it down, we always have a book we can go back to. I'm really big about journaling. So have some things down when you're working through this process in times when we're not struggling. It's good to pull this book back out so that when the struggle does occur, we can look at how we would handle this situation in a logical manner.
And that's one thing and this kind of thought just kind of popped in my head, and I did this last week because I'm a whiteboard guy. I like to put stuff up on a whiteboard, that way I can always look at it. So I actually ordered one of those refrigerator magnet. One's like a calendar, so I can put my calendar on my refrigerator, and then there's another one that's just a big blank whiteboard that I can put on my refrigerator, and I'm just going to write down my goals and keep them there, because I feel like that's the only way I can keep my thoughts on track. Because I feel like what you're trying to say is our thoughts have consequences, whether we're going to either hit our goal, or if we're going to just say, screw it, I'm going to sit on the couch and hit the Corona 15.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about our thoughts. Our thoughts do have consequences. It's really interesting. Going through some of these seminars and classes, I have learned that we think that it's all about our brain and how we're thinking, and to a large degree that is true. But when we first experience our senses, like if it's fear, frustration, anger, stress, and anxiety, the initial thing that occurs is there's a physiological response. Okay, so if it's something that I'm feeling that's negative, or if it's something that I'm feeling that's positive, okay, our body is going to react first, and then our mind creates a narrative. Okay, so let me use the example. I think a better way to look at this is when it comes to public speaking. Okay, so I think anybody, even when you're doing comedy, the emotions, the physiology is the same. Okay, so what happens is we're about to go, whatever that may be. We feel our heart rate increase. We may feel a little sweaty. There's a vasoconstriction. Okay, that's all part of the fight or flight mechanism. There is a moment that is about to occur. So that physiology hits, and then there's a thought that comes up. Okay, That thought, if you're fearful of public speaking because you told yourself, I hate doing it, I don't like it, I'm scared I'm going to mess up, you've created that first initial thought. Let's say that you love public speaking, and let's say that I'm fearful of it. Okay. Both of our heart rates increase. We start sweating, and I say, oh my gosh, I don't like doing this. I'm going to mess up. Uh, I'm never going to succeed. There's going to be people here that know a lot more about this topic than I do. Versus you feel your physiology, your heart rate, and you say, all right, I'm about to hit the stage, I'm going to make some people laugh. Okay. So the physiology you and I both feel are the same. The only thing that makes this situation different is the narrative. Okay. So, I mean, if I'm thinking it's not going to work and you're thinking this is great, in our reality, it's true. The situation is the same. It's just the words that we use end up defining the way we look at it, who we are, and how we perform. So as long as we can become aware of the thoughts, so it's going to be the first initial word that I use, which I will seek out everything I can to support that word. Because I don't want to be crazy, so, okay, I hate this. Okay, now I need to validate that. Yeah, I hate it because those people don't listen anyway. I'm probably going to mess up versus I'm about to give these people some new information they've never heard before. The only thing that's different there is the mindset. The situation's the same. The way I'm looking at it is different.
That makes a lot of sense. I know you and I have talked before about, someone's willingness to want to go in the gym and work out. Some people could be, really timid to get in there and work out in front of people. And at the same time, you're like, I'm going to go in here and just destroy everyone around me.
Yeah. I train with kids that are half my age. I train with a lot of professional football players. And the way that my day works is I train people pretty much all the way through 2:00. And 2:00 is my workout time. And I'm usually exhausted. I've been talking all day. I've had very, very little time for myself. But the words that I use every time before my workout is these guys have no clues what's about to happen to them. And I've said this so many times that it just happens automatically. That creates this physiology in me that I'm ready to go. If the narrative I say, well, oh my gosh, I'm so tired right now. These guys are a lot younger than me. They're going to that pattern, the physiology for myself. So it's all about how we talk to ourselves. I think it was Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
So basically we're creating our own perception, and it's whether our emotional response to our own perception creates our behavior to the problem.
There's a process. So, perception is basically based on our past beliefs, our past experiences. If I was bitten by a pit bull, then I might be fearful of all pit bulls. If I gave a public talk one time and it didn't go well, then I might say, okay, all of my public talks are going to be bad. So I'm overgeneralizing. I'm making everything bigger than what it really is. So your perception, okay? So I have this perception of what I'm about to do. That perception is going to elicit an emotion. That emotion could be, a positive or a negative. And then from that emotion elicits a behavior. It's going to control my actions. I'm either going to go into this with great confidence, or I'm going to go into it with a lot of reserve and not a lot of self-esteem. Those are the three things. There's our perception. I see, taste, touch, smell, or hear something that elicits, it triggers, it's called a trigger, an emotion. Okay, I need to clarify and evaluate that emotion in that moment. If things aren't going our way, we're not succeeding, say like you were saying about you're falling back into these old patterns, I need to take a look at the emotion I'm having in that moment and clarify and evaluate that feeling. Why do I feel this way? There's a term called non-identification. So what I need to do is non-identify for my emotions right now. What if my friend was thinking this? What advice would I give my friend? So separate yourself, create a little space there so you can ask yourself, is what I'm feeling, is it valid? What's the worst thing that can happen? How could I get out of this situation? You're trying to clarify. In psychology, they call it ants. It's automatic negative thoughts that may occur. So we're trying to clarify and evaluate. And when we clarify and evaluate that, and we see that it's not as bad as we think it's going to be, then the behavior is different. Okay, but it's a constant process. Nobody ever gets there. We just get better. If you think you're going to get this down and you're going to be successful from here on out, we're setting ourselves up for failure, because there's going to be sometimes things don't go our way. Things are going to be really overwhelming. I'm not trying to minimize anyone's emotions. I'm just saying we need to use our emotions wisely. We need to apply the level of emotion that it deserves.
Okay. So like with that, are you saying that we should really, when we notice and we become aware that we are having a certain emotion or a certain thought, that we should first acknowledge that we're having that thought and accept that?
Absolutely. Yeah, because acknowledge it. Well, that's acknowledging reality. If you don't want to acknowledge it, that's fine, but you're having it. So now that's kind of an illusionary thought process that's going on. I
Okay.
mean, there's a term in dialectical behavioral therapy called radical acceptance. And when we accept our thoughts, then they lose their power. The only thing that gives our thoughts power is our fighting against those thoughts. What we resist persists. The harder you fight it, the stronger that emotion comes. What happens when you lift real heavy weights in the gym? You keep lifting heavy, heavy, heavy. You get stronger, okay?
Right.
The muscle hypertrophies, okay? Well, it's the same thing with our thoughts. The more we fight the thought, the stronger the thought becomes. When we acknowledge the thought, then it kind of takes the wind out of the sails of stress and anxiety. So it's radical acceptance. First comes awareness, and second comes acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or agreeing with the way I feel. It's just acknowledging this is the way I feel, and that's okay. Now my thoughts are not so strong, so dominating that I'm trying to. Yes, I am very much justified in the way I feel right now. When we acknowledge it and accept it, it allows us to now work with the emotion a little bit more. We're trying to minimize that strength of that first initial emotional response.
So are you saying that basically we need to say, you know what, it's 10 o'clock at night, I feel hungry. It's fine that I feel hungry, but where do we go from there? Okay.
What's going on? Did I not eat all my meals today? Well, no, I didn't eat breakfast. Well, okay, it makes sense. I'm hungry here. It's 10 o'clock at night. I missed a meal. And then, because what we usually do is we'll have a binge at night, and then we feel guilty the next morning and we skip breakfast. Okay, don't do that. You're setting yourself up for nighttime eating. The thing is when you binge at night, that's okay. Get up the next morning and start your breakfast. Being consistent. And then, sometimes you are hungry at night. We just need to make sure that we make better choices in the evening and just make sure that we get all of our meals in. But the reason we do what we do, we're usually setting ourselves up for failure in some way. And also, I'll say we do what we do because we get something from it. And that's kind of what we need to take a look at. Am I really hungry right now? Or am I just bored? Or am I stressed? Or am I sad? Did I not do all the things that I wanted to do today? And that's, what, that's okay. The answers to all those are okay. That just means that next time, tomorrow, when tomorrow comes, I'm going to try to do better.
Okay. So 2 hours from now, I'm sitting on my couch and I'm going, I should probably go outside and work out, but I'm feeling like I'd rather just lay here. So I need to basically just say, yes, I'm lazy. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm bored. Okay. If I'm bored, then I should just get up and go walk.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, you know what? I don't feel like walking today. That's fine. I'll walk tomorrow. But now when tomorrow comes, I got to get up and walk.
Okay.
You just don't beat yourself up so much. I mean, when we all do it, we beat ourselves up when we don't do something. It's like, okay, boy, I ate that large pizza. I'm probably eating a large pizza tonight, by the way, which big deal. You know why? Because tomorrow morning when I get up, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to continue with my regular breakfast. Okay, I'm not going to hold out. I'm going to go ahead and eat. If I don't eat in the morning, then you know what's going to happen is I'm going to start getting hungry around lunch. And then that's when those subconscious drives start kicking in. We crave fat, salt, and sugar because those are necessary for life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're addicted to fat, salt, and sugar, because it elicits the most dopamine. And whatever we do consistently in our life, be it something in our best interest or not in our best interest, we're doing it because we're getting something from it. And at the level of the brain, what we're doing is we're getting dopamine. We're all dopamine addicts. again, writing this stuff down, I think, is the most important thing so that you can see what the brain is thinking. It allows us, it reveals to us what's truly going on in my mind. And then you have like a blueprint. This is the way Jamie thinks, or this is the way Kelly thinks. And when I see the way that I'm thinking, now I can start making changes to that thought process. It's like we've got some wires that are not connected correctly. They're crossed. And what we need to do is make sure that we're correcting those wires. And once you start seeing the results, the changes, then we get a shot of dopamine. We're rewarded because we did the right thing. We did the thing that we wanted to do.
Mm.
But the first step really is becoming aware and then accepting it. And then that puts you in a more calm state so that you can be more flexible. Now you have more power to change. You can't fight change. Now you just got to kind of go with it, but you got to have a blueprint on where you want to go. You got to know really what my goals are and why are they important. Nietzsche said a strong enough why can bear almost any how. If I want change and I say, why do I want this change? And it's strong, then you'll find any way you can to achieve that. If it's kind of weak, like I want to lose weight because of the high school reunion, that's not going to last in most cases. So the strength of the why will determine the success, and we'll find out how to do it.
So I need to think about not just looking good in a mankini for the summer.
That's going to be a side effect. That should be the primary goal. Number one really should be about our health, our mental clarity, building a strong immune system. So when things hit, like what's going on right now, we set ourselves up in a better situation to fight against these deadly diseases. You're young, but I've got kids and they're going to have kids, and I want to be around as long as I can to see their grandkids and just enjoy life. I want to have a good quality of life. So that's my why. There's also some side reasons. I practice what I preach. If I'm telling you to do it, then I believe that I should be doing it. I did that with my food. I do that with my exercise. I also do it now with behavioral modification. I mean, I've got a constant dialogue. We all have a constant dialogue going on. I think I'm more aware of my dialogue, and that's what I'm trying to get people to. I think we're kind of fearful of our dialogue because it may not be saying the things that we want to hear, but it's being said. So we need to start listening to ourselves. I may have mentioned before, Michael Singer said, the day we become more interested in the thoughts than the thoughts themselves is the day we find our way out. I mean, I know what I'm thinking, but it's just kind of a fleeting thought. But when I really start to diagnose what I'm thinking, what I'm saying to myself, then it becomes a whole different ballgame. Now I'm in better control. I hear the narrative that seems to just emerge in my mind. The fact is that narrative has been there for a long time and we've created it. But the fact that we can create it means that we can also recreate it. So that's what's fun about this. It's like kind of like a chess match. I'll think something immediate, like I hate that. Ooh, hate is a strong word. I really don't care for that. So it's changing that dialogue. There's something else called it's NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And it's about rewiring the brain. Our computer is running on a certain program right now. So is our brain. And if we want to change the computer's program, we've got to get a programmer in here to redo it. Same thing with our brain, but it's kind of a do-it-yourself project. So we've just got to be aware of some of these trigger words. Like I made sure that I wrote down the negative words I was saying. I hate this. I don't want to do it. And then I realized what I was saying. And then out beside it, I intentionally put in more positive words. Like if my alarm goes off and I say crap, I mean, that's not going to start my day off real good. So what I did is I wrote down crap, and out beside it, I wrote opportunity. So when that alarm hits, opportunity, and now it just pops into my mind. It emerges without me even really thinking about it. It's been something that I've created. And so when I say opportunity, that sets in a path of a whole new different dialogue, different narrative for me to go through. And it makes my day so much better.
So it's all about changing your thoughts, changing your mind.
Well, I mean, when you change your mind, everything changes. And everything changes when you change your mind.